Have you ever wondered what life was really like in Europe after the fall of the Roman Empire? How a continent that had once been united under one rule became a patchwork of kingdoms, castles, and warring lords? How ordinary people survived in a world of knights, serfs, and unpredictable battles, while at the same time creating art, literature, and innovations that still influence us today? This is the story of medieval Europe, a period that stretched roughly from the 5th century to the 15th century, full of struggle, resilience, and transformation. After the collapse of Rome, Europe faced a period of political fragmentation and instability. Powerful local lords emerged, controlling lands and protecting the people in exchange for labor and loyalty. This system came to be known as feudalism. Kings ruled over kingdoms, but their power was often limited by the influence of nobles, bishops, and other local leaders. For ordinary people, daily life was dominated by farming. Most people were serfs who worked the land in exchange for protection, living in small villages with simple homes made of wood and thatch. Food was basic: grains, vegetables, and occasionally meat. Life was difficult, but communities were tightly knit, and local traditions and festivals helped bring people together. Castles became the centers of power and protection during this era. These impressive structures were built to withstand attacks and served as homes for the nobility. They were designed with thick walls, towers, and moats, and were often surrounded by entire villages that depended on the castle for defense. Knights, trained from a young age in the art of war, served these lords. They followed a code of conduct known as chivalry, which emphasized loyalty, bravery, and honor. Although the reality of medieval combat was harsh and brutal, knights became symbols of the ideals and values of the age. Religion played a central role in the lives of medieval Europeans. The Christian Church influenced nearly every aspect of society, from law and education to art and daily routines. Monasteries became centers of learning and preservation of knowledge, where monks copied ancient texts and maintained libraries. Cathedrals rose across the continent, architectural marvels that inspired awe. Gothic cathedrals, with their soaring spires and stained glass windows, reflected both the devotion of the people and the technical skill of their builders. Medieval Europe was also a time of conflict and conquest. Vikings from the north raided and settled along coasts and rivers, while the Magyars and other groups moved into Central Europe. Kingdoms such as England, France, and Spain gradually emerged from the chaos, often through battles, marriages, and alliances. The Crusades, a series of religious wars beginning in the 11th century, saw thousands of Europeans travel to the Holy Land, driven by a mix of faith, ambition, and the promise of land or riches. These campaigns had profound effects on trade, culture, and knowledge, as Europe came into contact with the advanced civilizations of the Middle East. Trade and towns also began to grow during the later Middle Ages. Markets, fairs, and trade routes connected distant regions. Merchants traded cloth, spices, and other goods, while guilds organized artisans and craftsmen, setting standards for quality and training apprentices. Cities like Venice, Bruges, and Paris became centers of commerce and culture, paving the way for the economic and social changes that would eventually lead to the Renaissance. The Black Death, which struck Europe in the 14th century, was one of the most devastating events of the medieval period. It wiped out millions of people, reducing populations in cities and countryside alike. Yet, in the aftermath, Europe began to change. Labor became more valuable, peasants gained more rights, and social mobility slowly increased. These changes set the stage for the end of feudalism and the rise of more centralized nations. Education and culture also evolved during the Middle Ages. The first universities were founded in cities like Bologna, Paris, and Oxford, providing structured learning in law, medicine, and theology. Literature flourished, from epic poems like Beowulf and the Song of Roland to the stories of Geoffrey Chaucer. Music, art, and architecture reflected both religious devotion and growing urban culture. Illuminated manuscripts, tapestries, and intricate sculptures demonstrated the creativity and craftsmanship of the age. Despite being called the Dark Ages by some historians, medieval Europe was far from stagnant. Innovations in agriculture, such as the three-field system and improved plows, increased food production. Windmills and watermills harnessed natural energy for grinding grain, while better roads and bridges improved travel and trade. Political ideas and institutions began to take shape, including early parliaments and legal codes that would influence future governments. By the late Middle Ages, Europe was entering a period of transformation. Centralized monarchies strengthened their power, towns and trade grew, and knowledge from the Arab world, preserved and studied during the Crusades, brought new ideas in science, mathematics, and medicine. These developments laid the foundation for the Renaissance, an era of unprecedented cultural and intellectual achievement. Medieval Europe was a complex world of contrasts. Life could be harsh and uncertain for ordinary people, yet it was also a time of creativity, learning, and community. Knights and lords, peasants and merchants, scholars and artisans all contributed to the rich tapestry of European history. Castles, cathedrals, and manuscripts from this era remain as enduring symbols of a society that, despite its struggles, laid the groundwork for the modern world. In the end, the story of medieval Europe is a story of survival, innovation, and resilience. It was a world shaped by both conflict and cooperation, by tradition and transformation. From the fields of peasants to the halls of kings, from the quiet work of monks to the chaos of battlefields, medieval Europe created a legacy that still echoes in our laws, cities, culture, and even our imagination today.